Long summer days doesn't have to mean hours in front of a hot grill. Here's a 15-minute recipe featuring our incredible lobster with a beautiful mango cabbage slaw. Keep watching. Hey there, I'm Chef Yankel, and it's summertime, so let's make some easy lunches together. I'm using my trusty flat top, also known as a griddle, also known as a plancha, and we're gonna do a really simple lobster taco. I'm gonna use ButcherBox fresh frozen lobster tails. These are raw lobster tails. I've taken them out of the shell, and you can substitute our cold cracked lobster if you want, or really any other seafood product that you're interested in. The recipe will work really nicely with all of them. So I've got these shelled lobster tails that I've split in half, given them a quick rinse. I'm gonna hit them with a little salt and pepper. We're gonna go really just fresh, simple seasoning and deal with ingredients that are so in season right now. So as far as my griddle goes, I'm going with a medium heat. I've got it started on low and I let it heat up for quite some time, and then really just drop the temperature down a bit or raise it as needed. What I don't want to do is burn things. I want to give everything a chance to sort of caramelize on the griddle as we cook. So we're gonna go lobster tails just right onto the griddle with some fresh butter. I like whole butter on the griddle. If your griddle's the perfect temperature and you're using whole butter, you get a really nice nuttiness as the butter starts to brown, and we love brown butter. That smells fantastic already. Summertime, lobster tacos, doesn't really get easier. So for our slaw, we're gonna go with a red cabbage, mango, white onion, really simple vinaigrette on top of it. And I wanna slice this as thin as I possibly can. We're gonna go with super thin slices. That is plenty for now. I've got some white onion and some beautiful mango. And we're gonna try and cut everything to match the same size so that our slaw has a really nice shredded texture to it. So for the mango, just some nice thin slices again. And one tip when you're slicing something that can tend to stick to the knife is if you angle the blade upwards so that the point of the knife is on the cutting board and drag it through, you tend not to have the side of the fruit or a potato or anything like that stick to the side of the knife. And then I'll take these, flip them over, make myself easy to work with little piles, very stackable, and basically do the same motion again. And really the idea when you want super thin slices, also known as julienne, is to make it as functional for you as possible. So trying to cut a nice big mango into julienne without breaking it down first gets difficult, but now I break it down into these little piles and I get nice thin slices. Now, one of the keys to this dish is certainly making your slaw in advance. The longer it sits overnight, even a couple of days, the more flavor is going to develop, the more the vinegar that we're going to add is going to bring flavor out of the fruit and really start to pull all the flavors together, the cabbage, the mango, and the onion especially. Move that to the side. And for our onion, I'll take the stem off, and then I'm going to go very thin slices right along the edge. Typically, I'll angle my blade in just a tiny bit, like so. And again, trying to keep those slices paper thin. If you have a food processor with a shredder attachment, it takes all the work out of this. Just one after the other into the food processor. All right, let's check our lobster. They're looking pretty good. Depending on your griddle, you may or may not have automatic non-stick quality. This is something that happens over time. You want to just keep your griddle oiled, lots of fat, and don't fight things. If something's stuck to it, just give it another moment. Generally, things will unstick themselves if they're able to cook for long enough. And you know what? I'm just gonna, why not baste them with a little bit of butter? So I think that's gonna add some beautiful flavor. All right. Now, one more thing that we're gonna add to our slaw is some fresh cilantro that I picked from my garden this morning. It's just unbelievable. And for the dressing, so really it's so simple. We're gonna go a little bit of cabbage, a little bit of mango, And you can just up the quantities here as you desire, however much you need. A little bit of that cilantro. One of the keys to a good slaw is salt. Plenty of salt helps everything break down. Same thing with the vinegar. A little bit cracked black pepper. Some rice vinegar. And some really good olive oil. We're going to taste the flavor of the olive oil. It adds a really nice peppery element to it. It's got a little bit of sharpness to it, which is going to be sort of a counterbalance to some of the sweetness that's going to happen with our slaw. So we'll just let that marinate for a little bit. Now, lobster tails tend to cook a little bit longer than our cold cracked lobster, for example, or if you were going to steam lobster in the shell. These, we want to give them just a couple more minutes. But of course we want them to be super tender and not chewy. So just don't walk away when they're on the griddle. By the way, you can repeat this recipe in a frying pan, a saute pan, on your grill, anywhere that you have a good hot surface. It's going to be delicious regardless. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a basil aioli, and it basically, fancy word for sauce. We're gonna go with some mayonnaise, and I've got some ground basil that I've pureed and just turned into a paste. I'm gonna add some mayo to that. I'm gonna add a little bit of fresh chopped basil in at the end, but we're just looking for strong basil flavor, bright color. It's gonna add pop to the dish. It's gonna contrast in look. It's gonna contrast in flavor. And for acidity, one more splash of vinegar. Sprinkle of salt and pepper. Some fresh chopped basil. You don't want to beat the basil up too much, it'll turn black really quickly. So just kind of roll it up and cut it with as few movements as possible. A sharp knife is very helpful. Beautiful. Give that a stir. Slaw is looking good. So once we have the lobster tail starting to curl up like that, and you give them a little touch, if they're firm in the center, you know they're done. They're gonna start to harden up the longer you cook them. So once you get that firm response as you poke them, you are good to go. And I'm just gonna get some of that beautiful brown butter lobster goodness that's on top of this griddle right now. Move them over to the side. So typically your griddle will have burners underneath, so you're gonna find cold spots that you can use as sort of like a setup zone. Once you're done cooking, move them to the side. And now we're going to warm up our tortilla, but they're not gonna overcook sitting here in this beautiful butter. So I've got tortillas here. Let's go with 2. Simple enough. All right, our tortillas will just take a moment to warm up. I like to give them both sides. Let's toss our slaw. There we go. And you can see the vinegar is already gonna pull color out of the cabbage. The salt also will help. Honestly, if you do this kind of right before lunch, you're gonna have a delicious, crispy, crunchy slaw. If you do it 2 days in advance, you're gonna have something that's just melt in your mouth. So delicious. All right, I think we're ready. Got these beautiful little bowls right in the middle with our tortilla. Now, you can leave the lobster whole, like so. Put nice big chunks in. We'll do that for one option. You can also chop it up, and it might be a little bit easier to eat, but of course you sacrifice presentation when you cut that tail up. But we'll do both. A little bit more. It's beautiful. And then of course a dollop of our sauce on top. I don't know if I can wait much longer. Second one I'll do, let's cut the lobster up. I've left a little extra, obviously. So we're gonna go with chunks. And this time, just for a different idea on how you can prepare this and make it easier for yourself, or just different presentations, we'll put a little bit of that sauce at the bottom as well. Lobster's gonna go right on top. So good. A little bit more cilantro. And then of course you can always add a little bit of salt and pepper at the end. It's never gonna hurt. A little sprinkle across the top, a little sprinkle there. Why not one more dollop of beautiful basil aioli to finish it off. If you've had a nice day at the beach or you've been outside this summer and you want a quick and easy lunch, I can't think of a better one than lobster tacos with a beautiful mango cabbage slaw. It's so easy and you can do it in about 15 minutes. So go cook something delicious and I'll see you next time.